Hello, everybody. Hello, Shauna. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Awesome. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? It's super beautiful outside. I hope you guys are all enjoying the weather. If you're sitting outside enjoying the weather, then I'm really jealous of you. How's everyone's morning going? Good. Awesome. Hi, Ed. Nice to see you. Great, Shauna. There's definitely a couple new names in here, which is exciting. Maybe I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to trickle in. Did everyone see the pink moon last night? It was actually super beautiful. One of our coworkers actually called it the poor man's aurora, and I was laughing so hard I was in stitches. Some of us at Workhub, have kind of like become aurora chasers now. We went out a couple weeks ago and really caught an incredible show. So that was pretty fun. I hope everyone's having a good morning. Great. Maybe I'll give it a couple more minutes. Is everyone calling from Calgary? Where are you guys from today? Grand Prairie. Okay. California, Saskatchewan. Wow. Okay. We have some variants here. Usually it's a lot of like Calgary, but that's awesome. I hope you guys are all having great weather too. Yukon. Oh, I would love to go there. I'm sure it's beautiful. Cold in Edmonton today. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's like Calgary's better. Snowing. Yeah, we had snow all weekend. I actually watched a lot of movies this weekend because it was snowing all weekend. And I watched a lot of like whistleblower movies instead I was like doing research. It's a good way to spend a snowy weekend. You may all have sound disabled. I think it's only me who has sound enabled right now. So that might be why we can't hear you. But you can definitely chat in. I can see the chat for now. And Mike is also here as part of our customer success team, and he'll be helping out with the chat and the Q&A as well. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section, and I will get to them at the end. But great. Hello. Oh, that's Mike waving. My bad. This is why I should have had coffee this morning. Alrighty. Awesome. Well, then maybe we will just get into it because it seems like a lot of people are here. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And let's talk about whistleblower. This is like an exciting topic, definitely like a little bit controversial, but definitely a good topic, I think, one that's pretty relevant to a lot of different organizations, and pretty interesting, I think. Like I said, I watched like a lot of movies over the weekend, a lot of like whistleblower movies. I don't know, have you guys seen any that you know of or that you watch quite often? There's like the Snowden one I've seen a while ago, but I watched one called The Whistleblower, which was also really good. It was about this lady who was working for the UN and human trafficking. It was pretty intense. And then I watched another one with Meryl Streep. It was called The Post. It was about the Washington Post. That one was also super good. Yeah. Okay. Well, in the current like challenging environment, a lot of organizations are going to extremes to achieve top positions, and employees are pushed really hard to perform at the best level. And when that happens, there's always a scope of doing things that could be unethical or illegal. And this, typically provides an opportunity to members of the organization to disclose like unethical or suspicious events like this, which is known as whistleblowing. And truly, no industry is immune to corporate risk. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about like what is whistleblowing, and some best practices and tips that I found. And then we're going to get into Workhub, and I'm going to show you guys how to enable and basically set up the Workhub's whistleblower component, and then how it works, how you can use it, and kind of track and access any reported breaches within the tool. We are all super excited about this tool. It's unlike anything we've done before. There's so many layers of security and privacy to it. So I hope you guys like it, and of course we love your feedback. So if you do have any feedback either on the tool or on the webinar, please feel free to send us a message or give us a call, drop an email, chat with us on LinkedIn. We love talking to you guys, so definitely contact us. Yeah, and Whistleblower came out around the same time as safety meetings. Safety meetings is another really popular component, and that will probably be the next webinar. So hopefully I'll see you guys at that one too. Great. Okay, let's get into it. So what is whistleblowing? My screen is shared, right? Yeah, okay. Whistleblowing is actually defined as an action which is taken by an employee or a former employee to disclose unethical or illegal behavior. The employee could report such behavior either to higher management in the same organization, which is known as internal whistleblowing, or a similar act could be reported to public or external authority, which is external whistleblowing. The individual who reports this kind of wrongdoing are called whistleblowers, and whistleblowing is defined as action which exposes misconduct or malpractices happening in that organization. Because whistleblowing usually exposes like a wrongdoing act, it can carry a really huge risk for an individual who is involved in the act of exposing these malpractices. So in order to mitigate the risk, there is a need to implement a policy for whistleblowing which protects the right of such individuals. A policy could be really beneficial for the organization because it gives confidence of fair practices to their employees, to their shareholders, to society, and to other organizations who may be doing direct or indirect business with the company. Whistleblowing is successful only when they are ethical within the organization, and the coworkers are ethical, and the entire process of the follow-up is also taken in an ethical manner. This, is sometimes not really the case, in which case like an internal whistleblower could even become an external whistleblower. So I do have a little poll. I'm actually curious to know how many of you do have a whistleblower policy within your organization already. If you do, put it in the chat. Just let us know. Do you guys have a whistleblower policy already? Are you thinking about creating one? What's like the status of that within your organization? Looking to create one. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Paula. Anyone else? Like I did include a couple tips and stuff on creating one. Yes, we do. Awesome. Good for you guys, Anita. It is like really important, if you are, if you do have like a whistleblower policy, ensuring that it's kind of like part of the organization from the top down. You of course want like all of management to be involved and create that kind of like speak up culture, and to really create that culture of openness and honesty. And, that's the great thing about the whistleblower tool is, it even helps employees hold each other accountable for their actions. So, because if people know that there is like that kind of whistleblower policy within the workplace, they're probably like less likely to do something unethical, right? So, that's how it really helps organizations remain ethical. And the company can use it to discourage unethical work and even create like a stress-free working environment, which of course we all need in today's world. But even the top management of the organization should really encourage this kind of activity so that unethical practices can be controlled from the organization. So some pros of having a whistleblower policy, of course, it builds trust and confidence for shareholders, and it also enhances corporate social responsibility. It protects everyone's interest who is, interested in the company, doing business with the company, or affiliated with it. And it actually reduces a lot of exposures to risk as well. And then, of course, there are some cons. Cons could be, typically that the employee, the whistleblower themselves, is responsible for providing the evidence and managing the proof. So they may really struggle to accumulate the necessary proof and get that together. Of course, there could also be some sort of retaliation, some conflict of interest, and that person who is a whistleblower themselves may actually have problems in future employment. And so this is like where you would really want to kind of make sure to have a policy or something like that to protect the person who is whistleblowing, or using an anonymous tool like ours is also a really great way to do so, where that employee's identity is protected. And, in showing them how anonymous that tool is, they may actually feel more comfortable speaking up. Whistleblower has obviously influenced a lot of changes within business and industrial practices. And so, of course, there could be positive or negative effects to this. A couple of things you may want to keep in mind if you are building a kind of whistleblower policy or looking for a tool. Of course, you'll want something secure and anonymous because they have very whistleblowing systems themselves, or the reports themselves will contain a lot of really sensitive personal and maybe even criminal data. And so there are a lot of laws across the world that vary country to country in terms of how to regulate this kind of data. So the great thing about our tool here at Workhub is it goes into a black box. It is totally secure and anonymous. It's not affiliated with the worker's ID in any way. So there's no way, even we can't really find that information on the database. It's absolutely secure and totally private and anonymous. And you'll also want to make sure that the whistleblower policy that you're building within your workplace is legally compliant, because regulations do differ across various regions. And the third thing to keep in mind is that you will want a system that is easy to use. Again, this is a great part about Workhub is, if the system is kind of on a work computer or in an office environment, that person may struggle to kind of find the ability to sit down and kind of write that report. And so the great thing about Workhub is that they can access it, from their phone or from any other device really, and submit that report if they need to, which, saves them from having to find that private space. The reason is, the person who is the whistleblower is usually someone who's really close to where that misconduct is happening. And so it's not really easy for them to come forward and decide to take that step to blow the whistle. And so we will want to make it as easy as possible, and just ensure that they feel like they are protected as well. And there may be specific laws in your region to protect whistleblowers from losing their job. And sometimes they can even file a lawsuit or register a complaint with higher authorities to trigger a criminal investigation. This is, of course, when it becomes an external whistleblower an external one rather than an internal one, but there are definitely some laws in place, even in Canada, even though there is some discussion about making those a little bit stricter or more clear. Just to reference, the government of Alberta actually does have a Whistleblower Protection Act as well, which came into force on March 1st, 2018. And it actually goes through a designated officer who's appointed by the Public Service Commissioner. So that one is in place specifically for public sector employees and staff to protect them from punishment if they want to disclose wrongdoing. And the legislation provides a process to protect them by ensuring confidentiality for anyone who, makes that kind of disclosure. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll get into building that policy on Workhub now. Or I mean, sorry, using the tool on Workhub, my mistake. Awesome. Okay, great. So on Workhub over here, this is the worker side. So on the worker side, we have the whistleblower card just on the right here, beneath all the other stuff. It just says report a breach. And if you click into it, it basically opens up this pop-up here. So here you have the ability to either submit a policy breach, a whistleblower report, or you can enter a reference code. So I just want to point out here that the whistleblower reports are completely anonymous. And like I said, they're not really tied to a specific worker or to their worker ID or anything like that. So if a worker comes in here and submits a report, they get a reference number, and they will never be able to access that report without the reference number. They're going to have to enter the reference number in here. So we can go ahead and submit a breach report, and then we'll pull the reference number, and I'll show you guys how that works. But I just want to show you how anonymous that really is that, without that reference number, even the worker cannot access their own breach report that they may have submitted. So to get started, you're going to just go ahead here and click submit a new breach report. Now you will see this disclaimer, terms and privacy info come up. This will come up every time you access the tool from the worker side. Again, just kind of clarifying that a lot of the details are hidden. So there will be a specific recipient that you select, and you can select multiple recipients if you want, but as a worker, you would select someone that you wish to report this to, and they are the only person who can really see all of the details of that report. So like the submission itself, as well as like the date, the location, any attachments you may add. So even though there may be other admins who have permissions on the admin side, for whistleblower, they will not be able to see a report that they were not a recipient of. And I'll show you that a little bit more on the admin side. As well, like the recipient could get notified by SMS if you change that setting, or they get alerted by email. And again, to clarify, that email does not have any of the details of the submission or of the report itself. It simply says that there is a report, and it provides them with the link to log into Workhub. So specifically, only that recipient can access the report on Workhub itself, and that's it. That information is not available elsewhere. And then the last paragraph here, again, is reiterating the reference ID that I mentioned. So after you submit the report, the worker themselves, again, can choose if they want to send a copy of the report to their own personal email. So the submitter can have the report, none of the recipients will. So they can have that on their own email address, and we do strongly recommend, if they are putting in their own email address to get a copy of it, that it's a personal email and not really one that's affiliated, with the organization. Yeah, so you're going to have to hit accept, and this will come up on the worker side every time that you really try to access this tool. We just want to make it very clear what this tool is about to the workers. So once you hit accept, this is kind of what the breach report will look like. So the first thing. We only have two really mandatory fields here. We have our recipients and we have our breach details. So to add a recipient, you just go ahead and click add, and this pulls up a list of recipients that have been designated by an admin who set up this tool. So I will show you guys how to do that as well. But basically the worker will just be provided with a list of recipients of people that they can actually submit a report to. So we're going to go ahead and click add. And of course you can add multiple recipients. And then if you just want to remove one, it's really simple. So once they have the recipients there, the next step is the policy. So if you click here, it brings up a drop down of all of the policies within your organization. But this is not a mandatory field. So if they are unsure about, which specific policy that this may be a breach of, or, whether it's not related to any of the policies at all, or whether it's related to multiple, they can definitely choose to leave that blank. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and select office security. They can also leave the location blank, or, again, clicking on it will bring up that drop down. And then you have your date of breach. So, you can go ahead and change this if you want to. I'm just going to submit this one for like 2 weeks ago, and our breach details. Just going to go ahead and enter this one in here. You have 1,000 characters here, so it's a pretty good amount of space to like type up a good amount of description. And of course, if there are multiple breaches using the reference number, they can also pull that back. So I'll show you guys that one too. And then they have the ability to add attachments. So these can be images or they can be PDF files as well. Simply, browse the computer, pull it up, add it in there. You can add a title and just say like, for example, and originating date. You can put in any date here of when this image was actually captured. Go ahead and hit add, and they can add multiple files this way as well. And they can say like this was found on this date, and kind of have that information in there. So on the admin side, they'll be able to see all of the dates and everything like that. So it's a really really great tool that way to compile evidence as well. Because as we mentioned earlier, there may be cases where they want to blow the whistle, but it's hard for them to get that evidence. Excuse me. And so, it's really handy, I think, to be able to have all of the evidence in there as well. And then, if they want to send a copy to their own personal email, they can go ahead and check this off and just like enter their email address in here. Sorry, I should have pre-typed this. And they can just add that in there so that they get a copy of the report once it's submitted. Once that's all done, good to go ahead and hit submit. So this is basically what comes up once it has been submitted. You'll see here, these two icons are to indicate that the report was actually sent to Mo by email and by SMS as well. So he should have been alerted right away via SMS, like, hey, there's a new submission, a whistleblower submission, and please log into Workhub to access that information. And then here we have the reference numbers. So again, we have a note that you may want to, store that reference number somewhere if you need to follow up or if you need to report this breach at all. And once that's done, you hit close and that's it. So it's really, really simple for the employee. We've kept it as minimal fields as possible with all of the information as relevant as possible so that there's less of a deterrent for them. As we were talking about, you want to make sure that that tool is really easy to use for your employees. And so that's really what we've tried to accomplish here. Now, I'm going to show you if we want to pull up the report again. So let's say they open Whistleblower, it asks for the reference code. So we can put the reference code right in there and hit this button. Again, that disclaimer will come up, hit accept, and this is kind of what they can see. So using that reference code, they can get back into it if they need to. So again, they can send another copy to their personal email if they want to. They can enter like another breach, let's say like, so let's say they enter another, they want to put in some more evidence in here. They can, you know, browse their computer again. And they can even put in a new date for that attachment as well. So it is really awesome to have the dates attached to each relevant file. You know, it just helps again with that evidence and keeping that clear and concise. So they can just go ahead and see it, as well as they have a log. So if we hit submit here again, we're given the same reference number. And then if we open it a third time, there we go. So we open it again, you'll see here that that's been entered into the log. So now we have 2 logs here. And then they can choose to enter another one. So I think this is also a really great way for them to build and compile evidence if they need to. You know, if this is something that's happening repeatedly, maybe the first time it may be considered like a minor issue, but the second, third time, you know, it's definitely considered a more serious issue if it keeps reoccurring. Especially if, you know, corrective actions have been taken. So, you know, being able to kind of have that history there, or especially for the worker who, you know, is reporting this, I think is really convenient. So that's the worker side. And so I'm going to now go into the admin side to show you guys what this looks like. So when we come into the admin side here, this is kind of what it will look like. Now, the first time you come into the admin side, you're probably not going to see any submissions here whatsoever. Yeah, you're probably not going to see any here whatsoever. And so you'll want to just go into your possible recipients first, but I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. So a couple of things I want to point out here. One is that you can see that these kind of like 3 in the middle here are grayed out for me. Now, the reason is if I like hover over this end here, recipients, and click on it, you can see this wasn't sent to the user that I'm under right now. This was sent to another admin on the system, or, you know, another user on the system. And so that's why we can't see it. So just to reiterate the fact that you can only see the submission if you are the recipient of it. Another thing I want to point out is you can see like the dates are kind of missing here. You know, like you have like a month, but the date is missing. The reason is we just wanted to further protect the anonymity of the reported breach itself. And so this way, without having a date, you can't really reference back to it. So, you know, if you have anyone who's kind of like snooping around or just looking through, you know, it's not as easy for them to kind of pinpoint like who reported the breach and why. So again, we're just trying to protect the anonymity of the workers, you know, because ultimately that's better for the whistleblower culture. So that's why this is like this. Another thing you may notice is if a submission is made and it goes to another recipient. So for example, if that submission we had sent to Logan instead of the user that we're under right now, you may not even see it appear in this list at first. Again, we've added an extra layer of security there. And so once a report has been submitted, if you are not the recipient of it on the admin side, you will not see it in the list until I think it's between 2 and 12 days of the submission. So it's kind of just picked at random and just randomly put in there. And this is, again, so that once that submission is made, it can be dealt with kind of in a timely manner before any kind of personal details or anything like that are discovered. So yeah. So as we can see here, this is the one that we just submitted. So we're going to go in and click on this as well. As well as you can see, we have the little like eye icon if you can view it versus a lock if you are not the recipient. So let's say we click into this one. here. So this is what the submission will look like itself. You have your attachments here, which you can click on to download if you need to. You can even write comments and say, right? So you can also leave comments in here to say anything. And if you have sometimes multiple recipients, then you can have kind of that back and forth comment or dialogue like under this section here, as well as you have a log date. So this can be sorted by date, but if any changes are made to the submission itself, like if any of these submission settings here are changed, you will see that as well in here. So automatically the submission kind of came into under review. So let's say we go ahead and close this. We can even change the policy it's related to. So you can go ahead and pick another policy if that worker didn't select the correct policy or any policy at all. You can change the location as well the same way. And under priority, we have the option of setting it as a minor priority or a major priority as well. So let's say we go ahead and save that after making some of those changes. We can see now the status says updated to show closed. And if we come back into the log here, we can actually see, you know, that the priority has been changed and the status has been changed. So again, we're just ensuring that this data is, you know, protected and kind of regulated. So that's why we have the log here. Any attachments added by the worker also cannot be deleted, but as an admin, you can definitely add in more attachments if you have them. One thing I would like to point out is if you are testing this out with your team or anything like that, I would really, you know, try to make sure that you put, you know, you write in the breach details like this is a test or something like that, because none of these can be deleted. And again, that's, you know, just for the integrity of the tool itself, and for the workers, we wouldn't want to allow that information to be deleted if it was important, or, you know, if it contained any sort of criminal information or anything like that, we wouldn't want it to be deleted. And so you are unable to delete this unless you as an admin add in your own attachments. Nothing else can really be deleted on this page. Funny story, actually, when we kind of launched the Whistleblower tool, we were testing this out here at Workhub, and everybody knew that we were testing it. It was our new tool, but somebody submitted a breach and made it kind of seem like a real breach, but it was totally made up, and sent it into our COO, and he totally thought it was real, and he was like, oh my God, what are we going to do about this? Like, can you believe this happened? And it was just a test. So if you are testing it with your team, please be sure to put in some sort of information or anything like that, just saying this is a test. Don't put in any real data, because you never know who's gonna like reference it back in a couple of weeks and be like, oh my God, what happened here? We have to do something about this. So I would really encourage, you know, emphasizing that it is a test for sure. So that's basically the submission. Of course, you have your filters on the right-hand side here if you want to filter this list further, you know, by priority or maybe even by policy. You know, just, you know, apply a filter by policy and it will pull up over here. So that's awesome. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the possible recipients. And this is probably the tab that's going to be most important for you when you're coming into this. So this is how you're basically going to set up your recipients. And that's really all that needs to be done on the admin side for your workers to be able to submit breaches. All you need to do is come in here and set your possible recipients. So there are a couple things I would like to point out over here. So one thing I want to point out is you may notice this red triangle over here. If you hover over it, it actually is telling us here that the user does not have the appropriate permissions in order to access the whistleblower submission. So this means that they're missing admin side permissions. Of course, if somebody is a recipient, they will need admin side permissions to view to view and possibly update the breach as well. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to access the breach. Because it's not accessible from the worker side, it's only from the admin side. And again, only when you are a recipient, you can access the report itself. So this triangle comes up to tell you if you've added someone to the list that doesn't have those permissions, which I think is really great. This is like something kind of new that we don't have elsewhere, but that's, you know, really awesome thing to know, I think, right off the bat. Another thing to point out here is you have this kind of toggle. So you can toggle to make someone active or inactive. Now, if you make a recipient inactive, they are still able to access any previous breaches submitted to them. However, they will no longer appear as a recipient to the worker. So if a worker, you know, now goes in to submit a report, you know, this inactive recipient is not going to show as possible recipient on the list. And then of course you can just hit the trash can to remove that there. And if you hover over here, it actually even shows you the status of the submissions that have been received. So here we have like 4, for example, to renew, 1 is under review, 1 is closed. And then to add recipients, super simple, you pull up the list here. Another really awesome like small feature we have in here is, you know, if you hover over this I button, it actually will tell you the position and location of the person you're looking at. So this can be really helpful if you have like a really long list of employees and you just want to make sure like, you know, supervisors or managers are kind of added to this recipient list. You know, that's, I think, pretty helpful to be able to see, you know, sometimes you have like 3 different Jamies at your organization. So, and it's hard to keep track of who's who, right? So this is pretty convenient to be able to kind of tell who, you know, who they are. And it even will indicate if they don't have the permissions. So if I like add 2 of these people, for example, you'll see here like it indicates they don't have permissions, but also indicated on that list as well. And then, you know, to remove a recipient, just hit the trash can. Are you sure? Yes, and that's it. So super simple to set up. Honestly, you're probably as an admin going to go in here, set this up. It shouldn't take you more than, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. Like it's really quick and easy to set up the recipients list, because that's all you have to do for your workers to be able to use it. And the last tab I have to show you over here is the settings tab. And we have this one really awesome setting in here, which is to allow SMS alerts. And you can change this to yes or no. So again, to clarify, none of that private information is sent on the SMS report. It simply tells them a new submission has been made and a link to go into Workhub. But if, you know, this is something you're finding is being used at your company often, you may want to enable SMS alerts, you know, especially because typically whistleblower breaches can be quite serious, you know, or urgent, you know, and may need attending to right away. So I think that's a pretty good overview on how to use this tool on Workhub. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take those now. Please put them in the Q&A section. I see a couple in chat. Okay. Will Workhub be authoring an online introductory whistleblower course following the beta? I do think there may be one in the works on our content request. Our content team is pretty busy because this is exclusive that they are working on OSHA right now. But I do think there is some more information that we will be adding to Workhub on it for sure. Josh, if you have anything specific you want to see added, shoot us an email and I can just make sure that it gets put onto our list. Otherwise, yeah, just shoot us an email. We can talk about this further. Otherwise, if you have like any content yourself, of course, you can upload it as a custom course. And Anita, to be clear, all potential recipients need to have admin privileges. Yes, Anita, that is correct. Because typically, you know, you would be reporting a breach to someone who is higher up in your organization and not just a colleague. But that being said, you can specifically only give them permissions like admin permissions for the whistleblower component and not for anything else if you need to. That's one way to kind of like fine tune and restrict who's able to access what. And yeah, I hope that helps. Did that answer your question? I think there's one more in here. Awesome. Okay. And then I have one from Paula in the Q&A. Will the step-by-step procedures of how to submit a report on Workhub be available in writing to include as an organization document? Yeah, totally, Paula. All of that is on our help.workhub.com. If you want to send us a chat or an email after, I'd be happy to send you the link to that. Alternatively, I think if you're in the help section, you should just be able to search whistleblower and have it come up. Okay, and with it being in beta, at what point could we activate the module internally? The module is all ready to go, even though it is in beta. I think that's just our way of saying that there may be some updates still coming to it. So, I mean, feel free to go in and use it. It's absolutely usable. We've tested it. We've tested it here quite a few times as well, as I mentioned. A template for the policy, I do believe that is coming. And the third one, the best way to launch this module internally. Why don't you actually, if you just drop us a chat, I'd be happy to talk with you further on that third question you have there. You know, just because I don't have all the specifics out in front of me, I can't really access that, but I'd be happy to talk with you further about that. Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions at all? Anything I can address? How do you limit admin access? Josh, great question. So basically under positions permissions, when you would want to make sure that that position is set to custom, and then under the administer permissions, you would only check off the whistleblower application and not any of the other permissions. Again, feel free to send us a chat or an email, and we can definitely help you out further. I just don't have the tools in front of me to access your personal account right now. So yeah, great. Last call for questions. If anyone has any. Probably not. Just send it to support@workhub.com. Thank you, Anita, for joining. Yeah, okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I hope you enjoy this beautiful Thursday, and I hope some of that was, you know, helpful and informative, and you know, that you enjoy using our whistleblower tool. And of course, again, if you have any feedback, any comments, definitely feel free to contact us. I'd be happy to speak with all of you. Okay, have a great day, everyone.